Hi, welcome to Book Club. I'm C.M. Vasquez, author of The Birdcage Society Falling, an ongoing psychological mystery series. Today, I'm going to be giving my impressions of Chapter 2 of Darkly Dreaming Dexter. Let's get started. Chapter 2 starts off talking about the cleanup after Dexter has taken care of the priest and the release the entire deed provided to him. Dexter actually breaks the fourth wall after saying that killing makes him feel good, that he enjoys his work. He says, "Sorry if that bothers you." But there it is. Kind of an... I know it's difficult to hear, but I am what I am. Now, I actually enjoy it when people in fiction break the fourth wall. This one was certainly unexpected, but I think it makes it more personal and immersive for the reader. He also mentioned that killing quiets his dark passenger, so he can be himself. Basically. And the self that he describes as Dexter instead of the dark passenger is quirky, happy-go-lucky, funny, but also dead inside. And Dexter's dark passenger, when he is his dark passenger, he feels good, better even, than he does as Dexter. And Dexter did say in the first chapter that the dark passenger is the me that is not me. But I've started to wonder, given how each persona makes him feel, is it the dark passenger that isn't really him? Or is it actually the Dexter persona that's not him? Who is the real Dexter? Either he doesn't know, or we're going to be following along on his journey to making peace with it. I think that's more likely, but we're going to find out. Now, Dexter ends up, after he's finished with the priest, after all of the cleanup, he ends up reburying the children in the vegetable garden outside of the abandoned house. And he places the priest in the same vegetable garden alongside them. Then he gets rid of the priest's car, kind of goes through the process of all of that cleanup. He pushes it into a canal that his boat, Dexter's own boat, is actually parked right next to. And then he heads home. You know, that's he calls it a day. Job well done. And when he gets home, he describes the trophy that he actually took from the priest. And as you know, with any serial killer, they always keep trophies. His trophy in particular is actually a drop of blood on a strip of microscope glass. So, you know, I think that's actually really fitting because he is a blood spatter analyst. So I thought that was really neat. But there's actually a total of 36 of them now, including the priest's microscope slide. So that's quite a bit. But again, not necessarily out of the ordinary for a serial killer. And let's see. He actually hasn't described where he keeps them in his place yet. He actually has an apartment. So I'm wondering if we're going to get into that later. I know where he keeps it because I've seen the show, and I'm curious to see if it's in the same place in the book as they put it in the TV show. But Dexter is satisfied after having committed this murder. He describes it as everything was done according to the Code of Harry, which, as we know from the first chapter, Harry was his foster father, who was also a policeman, who taught him how to basically not get caught. And the guideline, as part of the Code of Harry, is to only kill bad people. Dexter says that he doesn't feel anything, that he fakes it, and he fakes it very well. He does like kids, and if he could have killed the priest twice, he mentioned that he definitely would have, which I can't say I disagree with. Something that I found interesting, though, was that Dexter said he will never have kids of his own. And that's not because he doesn't want them. It's because he has never had the urge to be intimate with another person. He says that there's no dignity in it, which I found pretty interesting. Because I don't know how old Dexter is, that hasn't been mentioned yet, but I think it's safe to say that he is a virgin, and the thought of a virgin serial killer, especially with zero religious connotations, is pretty different, pretty interesting. Now, in this chapter, we're also introduced to Dexter's foster sister, and her name is Deborah Morgan. She's also a police officer, so she's chosen to follow in her father's footsteps now. Harry is her biological father, so Dexter is the only adopted child in that family. And we're introduced to Deborah because she has left a voice message on Dexter's answering machine. Now, this book, the time frame, the setting for it, there is answering machines in your house are still quite common at this time. So the message that she left for him on the answering machine is her basically asking him to come to a crime scene that she's currently working. And so the next part of the chapter is basically him driving to that crime scene. During this time, he does give a little bit of information on Deborah, but mostly it's about how she feels about him and how he is confused about why she cares so much about him, but that she's one of the few people that actually does care whether he lives or dies, given that she is the only family that he has left. Both his foster father and foster mother are dead at this point. And he says that if he could feel for somebody, if he could have feelings, he would care for Deborah. But when he arrives at the crime scene, he finds that Deborah is dressed up as and pretending to be a lady of the evening, as it were, which she hates because she just wants to be a cop. And using her femininity to catch men paying for intimacy isn't her idea of real police work. But she works vice, so unfortunately, it's just a part of her job. What I found hilarious, though, about this entire scenario with her dressed up as a hooker is that because Dexter describes it as, at least he gives the reasoning behind it, is that because she doesn't dress very feminine in her day-to-day life, the outfit that she chose for this job doesn't scream sex appeal. Dexter describes her outfit as a pink tube top, black spandex shorts with fishnet stockings on underneath, and stiletto heels. Granted, I haven't really seen a whole lot of hookers in real life, but I can't help but think that Dexter's view of this scenario is a little bit skewed, given that he has never been intimate with another person. I doubt that his idea of sex appeal is very accurate. Now, he hasn't necessarily said that he doesn't have the urge, like that he doesn't feel sexual attraction, just that he doesn't want to participate in the act. So having said that, and, kind of thinking about it, I actually went and got a second opinion from my husband. I described to him this scenario and what Deborah is wearing, and I asked him if that is appealing. Is it sex appeal? And he said no. And I thought that was interesting, so I gave him a follow-up question, and I'm like, but does she look like a hooker? And he said yes. So I guess Deborah is failing both at her job as an undercover prostitute and as a prostitute in general, because she wouldn't be getting any business if she has zero sex appeal. So I thought that was pretty funny. But you know what? Let me know in the comments whether or not you think her outfit is appropriate attire for that kind of job. And you let me know how well she did and what you think of my opinion on it. So that was pretty funny. Anyway, Dexter finds Deb working the police line. She's still in full hooker getup, except she has her badge now pinned to her tube top. And she is keeping the crowd away from the scene of the remains of a murdered prostitute. When Dexter gets there, he goes right up, talks to Deborah, and we find out that this is actually the fifth murdered prostitute in 5 months. Now, Deborah thinks that these murders are related, but her department, and of course homicide, thinks otherwise. But she has called Dexter there to basically find evidence that, and to help her prove that these murders are connected. Because if she can basically prove herself and be seen by the higher ups, then maybe she can move from vice into homicide, especially since she hates vice so much. So Dexter agrees, tells her that of course he'll help her. So he goes over to the crime scene area, and that's when we are introduced to a new character named Vince Masuka. Now, in the TV show, I already know about Masuka, and I do like him. He's funny, but he does cause a little bit of uncomfortability in the show. Basically, Masuka is a small Asian man who is very inappropriate with jokes and gestures, but the way that Dexter describes him when he interacts in this way is as fake. When Masuka jokes, when he smiles while he's joking and saying inappropriate things, it seems like an act. And this causes Dexter to basically relate to him in the way that Dexter is fake, because Dexter fakes everything. He fakes feelings, he fakes what he says to people, and he finds it refreshing in Masuka that he is also fake. So he says that he likes him. But when he's interacting with Masuka, he finds out that the remains of this prostitute have no blood. All the blood is gone. So Masuka actually ends up questioning Dexter because Dexter is a blood spatter analyst. So why is he at the crime scene? He asks multiple times. He's like, why are you here? Because there's no blood at all, is what he says. And this causes Dexter to kind of go inward for a second and think about what blood means to him. And the inner reaction that he has when he thinks about blood is that he thinks that it is sticky, hot, messy, and awful. And I find that interesting because given that he is also a blood spatter analyst, he would be dealing with blood every single day. But also the fact that he is a serial killer, he would also be around blood. So thinking about that and his basic aversion to blood, what it makes you think about what may have happened to cause the aversion to blood, and then also why he chose a career in the field of blood. He does mention something like this as well, briefly touching on it, that there may be a reason behind this, but he doesn't go any further into it. So that's definitely something that I expect to show back up in either this book or later on in the series, for why he has such a strong connection to blood and why it's so negative, but he can't seem to stay away from it. And so there's a bit of irony in that I appreciate and hope that we will get to further along. But, come to think of it, Dexter in the first chapter, and even so far at this point in the second chapter, never actually describes how he killed the priest. He only describes the room, how he decorated the room, the cleanup, what the priest says to him, and then his trophy afterward. So I'm hoping that we get into that fairly quickly in the book. I know what he does because I've seen the show, so I'm curious to find out if it's the same way that he kills people in the show, because it is pretty much the same every single time. I'm not sure if he did that this time. He does seem to adapt to certain scenarios, because again, in the show, I know that the way that he disposes of the bodies is different than the way he disposed of the priest's body. And we actually get into that a little bit at the end of the chapter. And there's a little bit of foreshadowing to unpack later because of this entire scenario. So I'm really curious and looking forward to getting into all of that. What I'm talking about, though, at the end of the chapter is right before Dexter goes to see the remains. Masuka tells him that it's the strangest thing, that the body parts have been chopped up and placed in individual garbage bags. And Masuka asks Dexter if he's ever seen anything like that. And Dexter responds to Masuka, but in his head. And he says, "Of course, that's how I do it." So I think that that's a really fun way to end the chapter, because that is the very last line in the chapter. I think that it's a very nonchalant thought for him to have, and unexpected for the reader, and rather abrupt. I think it gives just enough info to keep you interested and wanting more. It definitely did for me, even though I already know that that's the way that he normally disposes of his victims. I would also like to point out that even though that's not what he did with the priest, I think that will be the majority of what he does, but we'll see. So that is the end of chapter 2. It was a relatively short chapter 2, but we got a lot of information. We got introduced to 2 new characters. We found out how he normally disposes of his bodies, how he thinks of blood. So this chapter was about 10 pages long, but there was a lot to it. So I really appreciated that. And I'm really enjoying this story so far. I actually want to read more of it in one sitting, but I don't want to miss anything. So join me next week on Monday, on Wednesday, for chapter 3. I'm going to try to release videos every Wednesday and Friday for this book club. So again, if you have already read Darkly Dreaming Dexter or just the entire Dexter series, follow along with me. Give me your impressions in the comments as well. And tell me your impressions of how I feel about these chapters. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it, and see you next time.